The Supercar Challenge is powered by Pirelli, Syntex Innovative Lubricants, Autosportinsurance.com, Spa05.com and Fitzner Performance Gearboxes. Hello and welcome to round 7 of the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli. We're at the awesome Spa Francorchamps for this penultimate race weekend. In this show we'll take a close look at SuperGT, GT and GTB divisions, and it's a weekend where the championship contenders either performed mightily or ran into a whole heap of trouble. Well, Spa is always a favourite with the drivers, and Supercar Challenge combines all classes together for a grid of over 60 cars, including some newcomers here, like this Nissan GTR, entered by Nova Race for Frenchman Stéphane Bailly and Belgian Philippe Stevenet. They're just dipping a toe in the water, but who knows, they may be coming next year. Stanley says, I think this weekend's going to be a little tough for us. We're new to the Supercar Challenge, obviously, so we're still learning a bit about the series. It's unknown to us. Level of racing here, though, is much higher than the Belgian Championship. There I used to be able to win races. I could pretty much know when we're going to do well, but I couldn't tell you that today.
Non, pas familier encore avec la voiture. C'est la première fois que nous l'avons essayé hier.
Bai says, well, the car is completely new to me. Yesterday, I had my first time out in the car, my first test. So we're really at a bit of a disadvantage. We got no experience, but it's quite a remarkable car. First impressions are amazing. It should suit Spa very well indeed. Well, on pole for both races is the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari 458 GT3. Driven by British GT ace Phil Keane and experienced co-driver Sean Balfe. It's their first outing in the Supercar Challenge too, but they're not new to Spa. Sean Balfe will do the first stint in this 1-hour opening race. Lining up alongside him is another British GT contender. Andy Schultz's Aston Martin Vantage GT3 is shared with Paul Bailey. Directly behind them in fourth, the first of our Super GT Championship contenders, Roger Grals and Robert de Graaf, in their SRT Viper GT3R.
Ja, er is nog steeds veel progressie mogelijk.
We still haven't found the maximum potential for the car, says Robert. Got a little room for improvement myself as well. I made some mistakes during the test sessions. Sure, I can polish them out with a few more laps in the car, so hopefully in the race I'll be able to improve. But looking at the sector times during qualifying, I think I could have managed a low 2:19, and that shows how good the car is at the moment. Balance is perfect. We got some help from Jaap van Lagen in a test last week, so thanks Jaap, and he's really helped us out. Car feels great. Henry Sumbink's Volvo lies second in the championship. He's a father for the second time as well. New son Daly just arrived. Hopefully he's had enough sleep to carry on, because he's only a point behind championship leaders Martin Lanting and Bob Herber in their Ferrari, whose reliability has been one of the keys to their success. But they're not up to speed here at Spa. Well, we're searching for the right setup to get more speed from the car, says Bob. We've already improved after qualifying. We had a test last week, everything was perfect. The lap times are much quicker than we managed this morning, but I guess that's racing too. One day the setup's perfect, the next you've got to start all over again. Well, we start with our report on the Super GT race during Saturday. 60 minutes, 19 degrees of air temperature, dry track. On board with Robert de Graaf, together with teammate Roger Grals and Arjen van der Zwaan. They're third in Super GT, 9 points behind championship leading Martino Rosso Racing Ferrari. And we're on board with Bob Herber. He's just a point ahead of Henry Sumbrink to the left of us there in the blue Volvo. With 4 races to go, there's a maximum of 88 points on offer. Could still be a big change around in the championship. Squeal from the brakes in the bus stop. We're on board with Bob Herber, starting in 7th place. BMW right in front of us, Niels Bohaus. And running up to the rolling start, there's Kelvin Snooks a row in front. Red lights are on. Oh, this is a long hold. Away we go. Great start from Snooks. And look, the Viper around the outside, the BMW up in the middle. Very slow start from the Aston Martin. Pole sitter is Sean Balfe. Huge lock up on the inside. That has got to be Kelvin Snooks. Epic start from the yellow Vicora. That's Barry Mason from 9th on the grid. Snooks way out by the tyre wall. Comes back on, I think, in the lead. Yes, he is, ahead of the Vicora. That's astonishing. Well, Snooks way out over the track limits. But Barry Mason, 2nd place. And that was a clean pass. Up the hill we go. 6th place with Bob Herber. You saw the Viper come back on in front. We're looking back at the Ferrari now from Robert de Graaf. Let's take a look from his viewpoint at the start. There's Snooks beside us. And watch the Ferrari. Sean Balfe doesn't get away well, nor does the Aston Martin, in fairness. Disappointing start. They both get jumped. And around the outside goes the Volvo. Snooks locks up deep on the inside. Oh, and there was contact. And the Viper's wing is a little out of line. There's the Vicora, and he made a clean pass on the inside. If there are penalties, Barry Mason will survive. Snooks might not. And the Viper back in behind Niels Bohaus. And that makes the BMW up to 4th place as they get into Eau Rouge for the first time. Sean Balfe in 3rd in front of us, right behind Bob Herber, of course, in that Martino Rossi championship leading Ferrari. Up the Kemmel Straight, and here comes the SRT's V10 power. That BMW, great aerodynamics, but we've seen from all sorts of races here at Spa, the Z4 struggles in the straight line, and the SRT Viper goes straight by it. Little outbraking of himself there. Battle for the lead. Kelvin Snooks already getting defensive, you saw, as Barry Mason's Vicora was challenging. Coming up to the bus stop, Ferrari versus BMW, and the Z4 on the inside has got the advantage of track position over Bob Herber. Niels Bohaus hangs on there, the Viper. Sean Balfe, the Vicora right in front. Kelvin Snooks leading the race. And of course for the Viper now, that's vital because Robert de Graaf's got his 2 championship challengers behind. Bob Herber picks up a spot around the outside of the BMW, or does he? The Z4 comes back on the inside. Herber has to go out very wide over the AstroTurf carpet, comes back on. You hear the engine stammer there as he loses speed, and through goes Henry Zumbrink. And that's a big move for Zumbrink. He too has got in front of the championship leader, and if they finish as they are now, Zumbrink will go in front of Bob Herber and Martin Lanting. It is so tight here. Every pass at Spa could really affect the championship. Well, Robert de Graaf now up to Les Combes, right behind the battle for 2nd. That's the Ferrari of Sean Balfe behind the yellow Vicora of Barry Mason. Balfe looks to the outside, Mason blocks, and through goes the Viper. What an opportunity, well taken by Robert de Graaf. He moves another vital place up the order, and now he's challenging that yellow Vicora V8. Looking around the inside, the outside. This is very quick here. Rushing up towards the braking area for the bus stop. And the Vicora takes the racing line. He thinks he's got it covered, but up the inside. That's a great pass on Barry Mason, who then gets the door shut in front of Sean Balfe. Robert de Graaf is up to 2nd place already. And right now, he could be taking control of the championship. Barry Mason's yellow Vicora V8 went from 9th to 2nd in 1 corner at the start. Now 3 laps later, he's in the clutches of Bob Herber for 5th place. Herber right behind him into Pouhon. And there is Niels Bohaus. Oh, contact from the BMW that goes off, and so does the Ferrari. Oh, and heavily into the wall. Left front corner and the rear as well makes contact. Well, let's take a look again from Bob Herber. There's Barry Mason in front. BMW right in the middle of Pouhon, going slower. Oh, and they both have to lift, and I think that's what caused the impact from the BMW, caught unawares. Well, Herber does manage to get back to the pits, and the team send the car back on its way with new tyres. I got hit in the back in the double left, high speed. I was just a passenger, says Bob. Hit the wall hard. Luckily the Ferrari's very strong. Only the 2 right wheels were misaligned. So I made it to the pits, had both wheels changed, but the car was impossible to drive. We're going to try and carry on and hold on to our points lead, but if this decides the championship, I'll be devastated. Well, they do end up 5 laps down, but still get points for completing more than 75% race distance, and that could be vital. Robert de Graaf chasing the race leader. Kelvin Snooks in front. High speed run through Blanchimont and up to the bus stop, and the Volvo moving around as the Viper reels him in really fast. Just avoids contact. Around he goes. And of course they did make contact at the start as Snooks locked up on the inside. Well, Kelvin dived right down the inside and hit me, said Robert. Hit my right front. I got off the track, lost a lot of places. The car was really unstable then. All the pickup on the tyres had a massive vibration. So I had to find out if the car was okay first. But the speed was good. I was able to fight my way forward. I really wanted to get by Kelvin. And that's what I did. And it feels great. Well, that monster lockup in the first corner of the 1-hour race left Kelvin Snooks with enormous flat spots, and that just had knock-on effects throughout the car, left him with a whole host of other problems. So he ended up not finishing the race 3 laps down. Well, the other Volvo of Henry Zumbrink had even worse issues with his tyres. He picks up a puncture in Blanchimont, the fastest part of the circuit, and doesn't quite avoid the barriers. Well, with problems for Ferrari duo Herbert and Lanting as well, this could have been his chance to take the lead in the championship. He was only a point adrift. Now he doesn't finish 7 laps down in the race. Luckily, complete 75% race distance to get some points, but a lot of damage. Blanchimond's about the worst place you can get a puncture. He said you're doing well over 200 there. I thought I had it under control, but the car just wouldn't steer. Spun, smashed into the wall. So that's the end of the race, I'm afraid. A real shame. So the only one of the Super GT title contenders to finish the race, it's the SRT of Robert de Graaf and Roger Graus, who take second place. And Roger says, our only goal was to keep the car between the white lines and finish the race. I saw Kelvin going very slowly. I knew he had problems. He wouldn't be a threat. Then I saw Martin Lanting parked beside the side of the road. Then Henry Zumbrich ran into trouble. So I was really surprised, but it's a perfect gift. So the happy duo are now tied for the championship lead with Ferrari pair Herbert and Lanting. The race won by Sean Balfe and Phil Keen in the Ferrari. Third place went to Paul Bailey and Andy Schultz in the Aston. GT Championship leaders Patrick van Galabica and Frederik Jonker in their Ferrari 458 have a 20-point advantage coming to Spa. They're second on the grid in class behind Craig Wilkins and Aaron Scott in the Viper. But the race results are a reverse of that, the Ferrari drivers extending their lead. Patrick said, I had a good stint. It wasn't easy. The track was very slippery. I got held up a couple of times by incidents in front of me. But the main goal was to stay close to the leaders in GT, keep the car out of trouble, to keep the lead in the championship. Managed to do that, and Frederik did a great job, and we finished in first spot. 16-year-old Max Kubelt, driving the Chevy Corvette C6, is the championship leader in GTB. Could win the title at Spa, but despite good luck wishes from the family, it all ends up in tears. Going into the penultimate lap of the race with a big cloud of smoke, Kubelt forced to park it at post 1 at the hairpin. A lot of work to do for the Davitech engineering team, repairing Henry Zumbrich's Volvo and Max Kubelt's Corvette as well. Well, the teenager clearly got an old head on his young shoulders. He's fairly unflustered by it. Said, we think it's the gearbox or the diff. We've got to find out what. Luckily, it happened going on to the last lap, so didn't lose too many places. I was 4th or 5th, and the guest drivers don't score, so it's not too bad for the championship. Well, his closest rivals are Steve Van Belling and Vard Slice. They took pole for both races in their BMW Z4 Silhouette and took the lead after the pit stops, heading to win number 2 of the season. We've been working really hard on the setup, says Steve. We know this track like the back of our hand, and I think those two things really gave us the advantage here. Of course, excellent work by the JR Motorsport team gave us the reliability and the support we needed. Happy to win. As the teams prepare for race 2, we head towards Sunday, and of course it wouldn't be Spa if the weather stayed the same all the time. Rain for race 2 leads to treacherous racing conditions. We'll bring you the full report on Super GT, GT and GTB right after this. The Supercar Challenge is powered by Pirelli, Syntex Innovative Lubricants, Autosportinsurance.com, Spa05.com and Fitzner Performance Gearboxes. Round 7 of the Supercar Challenge powered by Pirelli at Spa Francorchamps, and after sun on Saturday, it's cold, it's wet, it's miserable on Sunday. Race organisers declaring it, unsurprisingly, a wet race. So into race 2 for Super GT, GT and GTB divisions. Championship leaders Bob Herbert and Martin Lanting starting 7th in their Ferrari 458. The car back in one piece after its Saturday crash, getting last-minute instructions on the traction control from AF Corsa's engineer. Henry Zumbrich 3 points behind in the championship. He starts 6th with his repaired Volvo S60 V8. Kelvin Snooks in the other Volvo lies 4th in the championship. He had mechanical problems after a massive lockup at the start of race 1. He will line up 4th on the wet grid. Sharing first in the championship with the Ferrari duo, Robert de Graaf and Roger Graus in their SRT Viper GT3R. They start in 3rd place. First time they've been in front in the championship. Again on pole position will be Sean Balfe and Phil Keen in their Ferrari 458. The visitors, like everyone else, starting on Pirelli wets. There are no intermediates in the Supercar Challenge. Paul Bailey and Andy Schultz should have been on the outside of the front row of the grid in their Aston, but they've had to pull out for personal reasons. But that still leaves a massive grid of 55 cars for race 2. So on board with Bob Herbert starting the Ferrari, and he will line up in 7th position, same as race 1. Rolling start on this very slippery Spa Francorchamps circuit. Niels Bohaus in the BMW in front of us, and the blue Volvo of Henry Zumbrink lights out nice and quickly, and that allows everybody to sort themselves out for the first corner. There's Sean Balfe, the pole sitter. Look at the Viper though. The SRT of Robert de Graaf goes around the outside, and outside him there is Kelvin Snooks, who took the lead in the first corner in race 1. Doesn't do here. It's the Viper that's gone through. He gets by Sean Balfe. So does the Volvo, and the Volvo's looking for a move. Snooks is going around the outside, down past the old pits. He takes the lead from Robert de Graaf. 3rd place is Sean Balfe with Bob Herber right behind, and then Niels Bohaus, and the high downforce Z4 in this weather could be a real factor. Well, out they stream up the Kemmel Straight. Here's the battle for 3rd. Sean Balfe in the middle of the road, but Herber's got the speed, and through he goes to take 3rd spot. Kelvin Snooks leads in the white Volvo. Then the battle for 2nd, Robert de Graaf and Bob Herber. And there's the yellow Vicora of Barry Mason. Damage on the front, and that happened at the hairpin at La Source on lap 1. Looking back from Niels Bohaus. Now he gets on the brakes in the middle of the pack relatively early. There's the Vicora. Little bit of extra acceleration there for Bohaus that he didn't really need. And watch Henry Zumbrink on the outside, has to go way out wide to avoid contact. You can see the damage on the front of the Vicora, and that means that the splitter is vibrating heavily, not giving him much downforce, and they're going to be out 12 laps before the end of the race. Heading towards the pit stops, Kelvin Snooks, still the race leader, and without the vibration-induced problems of yesterday, looking strong in the Volvo. Robert de Graaf in 2nd, ahead of Bob Herber, and Sean Balfe recovering in the pole-sitting Ferrari, challenging for 3rd spot. Midway pit stops, Robert de Graaf chatting to team boss Marvin Moonen. He's in radio contact with Roger Grauls, who's taken over the SRT in 2nd place. They've got 10 extra result seconds compared to Henry Zumbrink, 20 more than Bob Herber and Martin Lanting, so they can't afford any mistakes in the pit lane. He's sent on his way. Kelvin Snooks kept the lead after the pit stops, but again is out of the race, this time a broken gearbox in his Volvo S60 V8. The BMW Z4 struggled in the dry with its high downforce, but that's really worked for it in the wet. Only 10 result seconds as well allowed Niels Bohaus to take the lead after the pit stops, but he's brought in for a stop and go. Now, normally a mistimed pit stop is only a drive-through, but they sent him out so early, he's made to wait for another 10 seconds. Well, that dropped him out of the lead and at the line as Bob Herber took the checkered flag. He only just held off Phil Keane for 2nd place. Very displeased with the team, as you can see. However, Bob Herber also had a non-compliant pit stop and was docked 20 seconds, dropping him back to 3rd. So the race winner ended up being Niels Bohaus. Well, fantastic, says Niels. It was such a great race. I had a good start, then got hit from behind, up to the pit stops. It was hard to keep up with the leaders, but with a slowly drying track, it got easier. Despite the stop and go, we managed to win it. And I'd like to say thanks to Jan Storm, who made all this possible. Unfortunately, he couldn't drive today because of an injury, but we're very happy with the result. Great boost for him and the team. Happiness too for Bob Herber and Martin Lanting. Despite their crash on Saturday and Sunday's penalties, they finished in front of Robert de Graaf and Roger Grauls. They now have a 1-point lead in the championship. Henry Zumbrink, not 9, just 7 points behind as they head to the season finale in Assen. Craig Wilkins showed great pace at Spa in his GT class Viper, mingling with the Super GT cars during the opening stage of the race and leading the GT class by miles. Points leader Patrick van Glabbeker, busy here holding off Henk Thijs in the Radical Extreme Coupe. Henk Thijs tried everything he could but couldn't get by. After the pit stops, Aaron Scott took over the lead in the Viper with 15 fewer result seconds. He was able to hang on in front as well. Henk Thijs taking 2nd place with 10 seconds less than the Ferrari duo. But going slowly here through Eau Rouge and Radiant. And that was all that Frederik Jonckera needed to take 2nd place on the long climb up the Kemmel Straight. Henk Thijs clearly not happy with the speed of his rivals Ferrari. I'm not sure paddling's going to help even in the rain. Well, the Viper being held up by the slower Sport and Super Sport class cars allowed the Ferrari to close right up, and going on to the final lap they were nose to tail. And Jonckera launched his attack around the outside at Rivage. Well, it's always tricky to hold on there, especially on worn wets on a greasy track. Here's a look again from the onboard of the Ferrari, around the outside at Rivage. Well, you've got to give it a go, haven't you? But the Viper is always going to come across and take the line. And Aaron Scott does exactly that. The Ferrari ease back into second place. And that's how they'd finish. Aaron Scott and Craig Wilkins claiming their third win of the season. Jonkra and Van Glabacher in second.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed the last couple of laps. You know, the Ferrari is a much faster car, really. You see it wins outright as well as in the GT class. So I was happy to hold him off, and I for sure wasn't giving up first place.
Yeah, it's always good to win when you're punching above your weight, and that was, he's a star.
Indeed he is. Well, with the Ferrari right behind them, it looks as though the championship might be over for the Viper duo, but as we've seen before, anything can and probably will happen in the decider in Assen. In morning warm-up, problems for Steve Van Bellingen and Vard Slice's GTB class BMW Z4 Silhouette. And that's going to leave the JR Motorsport team with very little time to repair what turns out to be a broken gearbox. Rivals Davy Tech Engineering have already had their fair share of hard work overnight, finishing off Max Cobalt's broken Corvette. The teenager could still win the championship here at Spa if he finishes in front of Dan Meyer's Porsche and the BMW of Van Bellingen and Slice. And there is Van Bellingen and Slice's 321 BMW Z4 on the grid, so they are ready to go. Well, the Gulf Corvette started second in GTB in the race, but soon took the lead. Steve Van Bellingen staying close. Marcel van Berlo in the red, white and blue Porsche in third. Simon Atkinson's orange and black Lamborghini in fourth, ahead of Dan Meyer's Martini Porsche. Well, Simon Atkinson passed Marcel van Berlo, who led after the pit stops. Van Berlo with just 5 result seconds, as opposed to Atkinson's 25. Atkinson setting the fastest lap times in the rain in that Lamborghini. Max Cobalt down to third, after a whopping 50 result seconds have their effect. He's still in front of Dan Meyer on 15 seconds, and Vard Slice, who took over from Steve Van Bellingen, right behind. Well, Dan Meyer had a broken engine in race 2 at Brands and in free practice here at Spa, so he's now using a standard cup engine in that Martini Porsche, and Van Bellingen gets by him for 4th place. Horsepower there is the problem for Dan Meyer, the Porsche with great traction in these greasy conditions. But still, they're both behind Max Cobalt, and that's all the 16-year-old needs to take the championship. However, trouble strikes again. The Corvette's perfect handling has all gone right towards the end of the race.
Ja, lat derde, dus voor Van Bellingen.
Well, he says I was third in class in front of Steve Van Bellingen and Dan Meyer, and that's all I needed to finish in front of them to tie up the championship. In the penultimate lap at Eau Rouge, something broke in the suspension, we think. It was all over the place. I was losing 30 seconds a lap. So again, a shame, but we'll have to tie up the championship in Assen. Well, he is the coolest cookie, isn't he? Remember, he's only 16. Dan Stringfellow, 4th in his Lamborghini, behind Steve Van Bellingen and Vard Slice. Marcel van Berlo in 2nd place, but the race winner, another Lamborghini, driven by Simon Atkinson.
Yeah, I love Spa. It's the greatest place on earth, it really is. And the wet just makes it more fun. So yeah, good race, really enjoyable. It was faultless start to finish, so really, really good.
Well, equally delighted on the podium, Steve Van Bellingen and Vard Slice. They managed to stop Max Cobalt winning the championship here at Spa. They're keen to take 2nd spot, but they've got to fight off very close rivals, Marcel van Berlo and Dan Meyer. Max Cobalt needs just 1 point in Assen, though, to be the GTB champion. And that's the GT action from here at Spa. Next time out, we'll look at the sport classes, and we'll have the report on the super lights from Brands Hatch. See you then. The Supercar Challenge is powered by Pirelli, Syntex Innovative Lubricants, Autosportinsurance.com, Spa05.com and Fitzner Performance Gearboxes.